Once upon a time, in a small town nestled between rolling hills and quaint meadows, there lived a man named David. David was a storyteller by heart, always eager to share the tales of his life. One day, he found himself sitting by the crackling fireplace, the warm glow reflecting in his eyes, as he began to recount the beautiful journey of his life with his beloved wife, Emma. It all started in the most ordinary of places. David began with a nostalgic smile. "I met Emma at our favorite bookstore. I was engrossed in a classic novel, and she, with her love for poetry, was browsing the shelves nearby. Their eyes met over the worn spines of books, and a conversation sparked like the first embers of a campfire. David talked about his passion for storytelling, and Emma shared her dreams of painting worlds with words. It was an instant connection, a meeting of two souls who found comfort and inspiration in the same pages. As the seasons changed, so did their love. They strolled through the town's charming streets, shared laughter in the local coffee shop, and enjoyed quiet evenings under the starlit sky. Before long, David knew he wanted to spend the rest of his life weaving stories with Emma. Their wedding day was a magical chapter in their tale. Surrounded by friends and family, they exchanged vows in a garden adorned with flowers, promising to be each other's companions through every twist and turn. Life with Emma has been a series of adventures. David continued, his eyes reflecting the warmth of the memories. We traveled to faraway lands, explored hidden gems, and faced challenges hand in hand. But the most beautiful chapter began when we discovered we were going to be parents. The anticipation of becoming parents filled their home with excitement and joy. Months later, their love gave birth to a tiny miracle named Lily. With her arrival, their story expanded, filled with the laughter of a child and the tender moments of parenthood. As time passed and their daughter Lily grew, life for David and Emma seemed to settle into a comfortable routine. However, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the living room, David noticed a change in Emma's behavior. Something's different, he thought, observing her lingering glances at her phone and the increasing frequency of late nights at work. The mystery deepened when David glimpsed a series of strange messenger messages flickering across Emma's phone screen. The messages were cryptic, filled with veiled hints and elusive promises. Concern crept into David's heart, and he couldn't ignore the unsettling feeling that a shadow was beginning to cast itself over the pages of their once idyllic story. One evening, unable to contain his curiosity any longer, David broached the subject gently. "Emma," he began, his voice a gentle murmur in the quiet of their home. "I've noticed you've been working late quite often, and I've seen some unusual messages on your phone. Is everything okay?" Emma hesitated, her eyes briefly avoiding his gaze. "It's just a project at work, David, nothing to worry about," she replied, her words a fragile attempt to shield the truth. The revelation of Emma's emotional infidelity had left a scar on David's heart, and the insecurity continued to fester in the back of his mind. Consumed by suspicion, he made a decision that would further complicate their already fragile relationship. One day, when the weight of doubt became unbearable, David succumbed to a moment of weakness and installed spyware on Emma's phone. As he listened to the recordings in the dim glow of his study, a wave of guilt washed over him. The invasion of privacy left a bitter taste in his mouth, but he couldn't turn away from the unsettling truth that unfolded before him. The recordings captured intimate moments, conversations filled with laughter, and the unmistakable sound of Emma's voice intertwined with that of another man. David's heart sank as the reality of his worst fears confronted him head-on. He heard the moans and whispers, the echoes of a connection that extended beyond the boundaries of their marriage. The pain was indescribable, a visceral ache that seemed to penetrate every fiber of his being. Caught between the agony of betrayal and the guilt of invading Emma's privacy, David grappled with a maelstrom of emotions. The once vibrant pages of their love story now seemed stained and torn, the plot taking an unexpected turn into a realm of anguish and heartbreak. The revelation of Emma's affair, coupled with the profound betrayal David felt, pushed him to a breaking point. The trust that had once been the cornerstone of their love story crumbled, leaving a void that seemed insurmountable. Consumed by anger and a desire for revenge, David made the painful decision to divorce Emma. Their once harmonious home became a battleground of emotions, the echoes of arguments and accusations reverberating through the rooms. Legal proceedings were initiated, dividing their assets and untangling the intricacies of a life once intertwined. As the chapter of their marriage closed, David's heart hardened, fueled by a need for retribution. In the midst of the divorce, David began plotting a revenge that would inflict the same pain he felt onto Emma. The bitterness that had taken root within him overshadowed the love they had once shared, and he couldn't see beyond the desire to make her suffer as he believed she had made him suffer. His vengeance took various forms, from revealing intimate details of their failed marriage to mutual friends, to using social media as a platform for airing their grievances. David's actions, driven by rage and hurt, left scars not only on Emma, but also on the memories they had once cherished. As David embarked on a business trip, the weight of his decisions lingered heavily in the air. The flash drive, containing the painful recording of Emma's affair, lay inconspicuously on his nightstand, a silent witness to the turmoil that had unfolded within the walls of their once shared home. The separation had not brought the closure David had hoped for. Instead, the recording served as a tangible reminder of the wounds that still festered within him. It became a weapon, a dormant source of power that he held onto in a bid to maintain control over the narrative of their shattered love story. In a hotel room miles away from the battleground of their failed marriage, David found himself confronted with solitude and reflection. The distance allowed him the space to reconsider the path he had chosen and the impact it had on both their lives. As he stared at the flash drive, he grappled with a profound sense of emptiness. A nagging question tugged at the corners of David's conscience. What would be gained by unveiling the painful truth to the world? The revenge he had sought began to feel hollow, and a newfound understanding of the futility of inflicting more pain settled within him. Returning from his business trip, David felt a mix of apprehension and a newfound sense of resolution. As he walked through the familiar doorway of his home, he couldn't escape the memories embedded in the walls, the laughter, the arguments, and the echoes of a love that had once flourished. With a deep breath, he steeled himself for whatever awaited him. Turning on his phone, the device buzzed to life with a barrage of messages. His heart quickened as he saw the numerous notifications, all from Emma. Each message seemed to tell a story of its own, some expressing regret, others desperation, and a few bearing a vulnerability that hadn't been present in their recent interactions. As David scrolled through the messages, a pang of guilt and empathy welled up within him. It became apparent that Emma had been reaching out, attempting to bridge the gap that had formed between them. The messages were raw with emotion, a plea for understanding and perhaps even forgiveness. The weight of the situation pressed on David's shoulders. He hesitated, contemplating his next move. Would he continue down the path of bitterness, or would he be open to a conversation that might pave the way for closure and healing? In a moment of clarity, David chose the latter. Rather than responding with anger or distance, he decided to meet Emma in person. Their home, once a symbol of shared dreams, became the backdrop for a conversation that would redefine the final chapters of their love story. As Emma opened the door, a mixture of relief and apprehension played across her face. The air in the room was thick with unresolved emotions. David spoke not with accusations, but with a desire for understanding, and Emma, in turn, laid bare the remorse that had been haunting her since the revelation of the affair. The conversation was honest and painful, both acknowledging their faults and the wounds they had inflicted upon each other. Tears were shed, but amidst the vulnerability, there emerged a glimmer of acceptance. It was a turning point, a chance for closure, and a shared understanding that their paths, once entwined, were diverging in new directions. As they navigated the difficult conversation, David realized that revenge had only perpetuated the cycle of pain. The messages from Emma, though filled with the weight of their shared history, also hinted at a longing for resolution. The decision to erase the recording was a catalyst for change, a step toward a more compassionate way of parting ways. In the end, David and Emma chose to move forward, not as a couple but as individuals, each carrying the lessons learned from their shared experiences. The messages, once a source of tension, became a bridge to closure, a way for them to express the complexities of their emotions and to lay the foundation for a new, separate chapter in their lives. As Emma pleaded for forgiveness, her tearful eyes searching for a glimmer of understanding in David's gaze, he remained stoic. The wounds were still too fresh, and the betrayal too profound for instant reconciliation. The weight of their shared history and the recent turmoil pressed heavily on David's shoulders, and despite Emma's heartfelt pleas, he couldn't find it within himself to offer immediate forgiveness. "I need time," David finally said, his voice measured but resolute. "Time to process, to heal, and to figure out what comes next." In the following days, David and Emma navigated the difficult terrain of separation. The decision to divorce became an inevitability, a painful acknowledgement that the fractures in their relationship ran too deep to be easily mended. Their once shared home transformed into a space filled with echoes of what was, each room a reminder of both love and loss. As the legal proceedings unfolded, David and Emma began the process of disentangling their lives. Assets were divided, and the logistics of separation became a logistical puzzle, the emotional toll palpable in every conversation. Despite the tumult, David maintained a determined indifference. The wounds of the affair and the subsequent betrayal were too fresh, and the path to forgiveness seemed like a distant horizon.